Well, good Monday morning. Welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I will say, on your way into work, you may want to bring an umbrella. It is a very rainy day out there. Some of you may be waiting till the very last minute because tomorrow is tax day. I just realized that. So prepare if you're not aware. Tomorrow is tax day. So on the program this morning, we're going to be talking to Brandon Buter. He's a peer recovery coordinator for AIM Independent Living Center. He's going to talk about Drug Prescription Take Back Day, which is coming up right around the corner on Saturday. So we'll be talking with him. I want to send a personal thank you to everybody who has contacted me. I had a lot of great conversations and some suggestions that people sent me last week for show topics. If you would like to reach out to me, there is the information. It's simple as that. I read every single text and email. I try to respond to everyone as well. If I haven't responded to yours, it's not that I didn't read it. I just maybe got caught up in what you were talking about and forgot to respond. So please contact me. Now, we are going to take a short break before we get into our topics of the day, but boy, do we have a lot. A couple funny ones, a couple very important ones. We may talk a little bit about former President Trump. We've got updates on the New York State budget, which looks as if it's getting closer to some type of non-extension scenario. So we'll talk about that, what the holdup is, what people are saying about Governor Hochul's negotiating when it comes to housing. Housing is the big one. We learned on Friday, more so than bail. They may have came to an agreement on bail. What that is, we don't know. There is no transparency in the New York State budget negotiations. That's been a major concern for a lot of good government groups that are saying, why is there no transparency? You've got three people in a room negotiating this, and we, the people, have no idea what is being said, what is being done, what is being proposed. So we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But let's first take that break, and then we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Let's talk. I'm hesitant to bring up this story, but I will say that the New York Post has been very kind in their wording on this. Today is the big day. George Santos is going to announce his re-election campaign. Now, many of you probably assume that he would eventually have to resign because, as the Post puts it, truth challenged. That's an understatement. That's why I'm saying they're very kind. Truth challenged Long Island Representative George Santos will announce his re-election campaign today. There's a lot of question about finances. I guess he has very little on hand. I think $25,000, something like that. Despite facing multiple calls to resign from both parties, by the way. And a lot of people speculate that this information about lying about his background, which he did a lot, may have come from within the own party. Because if you think about it, that information didn't come out until after he had won the election. It seems like if Democrats had that information, they would have released it before the election, clearly. But yes, he has not resigned despite facing multiple calls to resign. He has called, quote, big donors and sat down with supporters. I'm surprised that's plural. Supporters, and believes he can raise $500,000 to $750,000 in the second quarter of 2023. Josh Eisen, who is a self-avowed top Santos donor, which is surprising anybody would admit to that in a way. Many of us Americans are willing to accept all sorts of resurrection. Perhaps Representative George Santos will be another, said Josh Eisen. Santos is currently facing a House ethics probe stemming in part from, again, New York Post being kind here, his fibs about his background. There's also a federal investigation into his campaign finances, and that's where we could see some real problems. Now, I think there's 3, maybe 4 people already announcing that they're going to challenge him. Nassau County GOP boss Joseph Caro said Santos had disgraced the House of Representatives and waged a campaign of deceit, lies, and fabrications in order to win the vote of the New York's 3rd congressional district. It is shocking, and he doesn't hide away from this. I mean, he embraces it. Remember at the State of the Union where he got that really cushy spot and everybody was upset with him, Mitt Romney cussing at him? This is going to be very interesting, but what they're saying is he didn't spend a dime so far. This is coming from Politico. I don't know if I have that up on my screen. Let me see. Yes. George Santos didn't spend a dime and actually managed to lose money. He has just $25,000 cash on hand at the end of the quarter. The figure came despite having not made a single reported campaign expense during the quarter. The New York Republican, who has been beleaguered from before he was sworn in after it was revealed he fabricated major portions of his biography, raised $5,333.26. That's a very specific number, isn't it? During the first 3 months of this year. But his campaign also refunded $8,352, meaning that he actually took in less than $3,000 that he paid out. Only one person gave enough to Santos to require that their name be listed on his FEC form. Sasha Basin gave $245.95. There's no clear online history for an individual with that name, and that's obviously a question. That's one of the big concerns with Santos in general. Who did he have, a communications director or somebody that wasn't named? Oh, our guest is here. You know what? Perfect timing. All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. We're being joined this morning by Brandon. Brandon, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So you have a lot of titles. Can you explain exactly what your job is?
So I'm the Recovery Peer Coordinator with AIM Independent Living Center. I'm chairperson of the Opioid Committee in Steuben County, as well as the OD Mapping Peer for Steuben County.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to move that mic just a little bit closer to you. You're fine, but just a little bit louder. So tell us about, because we've had the sheriff on, Allard, and we've had so many people, and we've talked about this epidemic of opioid abuse and Narcan being handed out of necessity, but it's scary how much it's necessary. So tell us about the Steuben County Prevention Coalition Opioid Committee.
The Opioid Committee is comprised of members from all different areas professionally in different walks of life, family members, people in recovery, people, that have loved ones that they want to get in recovery, and people that have lost people to the epidemic. It's really our drive is just to get information out there, get as much information in the hands of the people that need it, as well as allowing people to understand and navigate the systems of care.
Tell us a little bit about what the committee does. You guys meet and just discuss what's going on in general?
Yeah, we meet. We have different initiatives we do. We put on events. Okay. All the billboards you've seen in the county, that's us. We try to attend all the biggest events like the fairs,
sure.
The picnics, like the park.
Just to raise awareness then.
Yeah.
The more people you reach, the better.
Yeah.
What do you think's leading? This is $1 million question, right? But what do you think's leading to this epidemic? Did COVID play a big part in it?
COVID played a part in it, but it was here long before COVID. It's really it's escapism.
Yeah.
The drugs are just a small symptom of the problem, right? And we focus strictly on opioids because that is what's killing off the majority of people that are addicted. But addiction as a whole is people trying to escape from their problems. They weren't taught how to cope or deal. I know that was what the story was for me. So it's just...
So you have a personal connection to this. Yeah. Could you tell us about that, or do you feel comfortable talking?
I'm in long-term recovery now. I work as a peer advocate. Just trying to bring awareness, trying to make it so families don't lose their loved ones and have an opportunity for people to realize what recovery really is and real life. Handed back to you.
Right.
So,
and because you went through that, you must be able to relate to these people. They feel more comfortable because of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole peer drive in New York State through Oasis, is really just to have people that truly understand, not only being in an active addiction, but also navigating the systems of care, getting help, being able to relate to things. I mean, I still see people I work with at meetings weekly. You know, it's just to allow people to see that there is some hope, because a lot of times people are hopeless to the point where they don't think there's a way out, and that's
sad.
Yeah.
And it's sad that so many people, because I read that Steuben ranked higher than average in overdoses in New York State by the National Opioid Overdose Tracker. So what, as we in the community, what can we do to help bring down these numbers?
First things first, fight stigma.
Yeah.
Make people not feel afraid to ask for help. You know, and the stigmatizing of people that are asking for help is not helping. It's not helping when you have communities that push back on such things like Narcan. I mean, it's a life-saving measure. Why would we push back on something like that? That's like pushing back on AEDs. It makes no sense. But the reality is, like, we need to make it more normal to be talked about. People are scared. People are, you know, feeling hopeless that they want to die because they think it's the only way out. And how can you be judgmental of that?
Sure. So what's your typical day like with being a peer recovery coordinator?
I mean, I oversee a program with AIM Independent Living now, with CHAMP. And I also do, like, my certified recovery peer advocate stuff. Well, first things first, when I first come in, it's check the OD mapping and see if there's been overdoses in the county. And if there has, then we try to respond to those within 24 to 48 hours to make contact with somebody that's overdosed, to navigate the systems of care, try to get them help. You know, it's different every day.
Sure.
Honestly.
It sounds like it would be. When someone does have that overdose, God forbid, do they seem more receptive to getting help?
It really depends on it. Yeah. It's individual. You know, and we work a person-centered service, so it's off of what the person wants. You know, it's always different. I know when I overdosed years ago, I didn't want to get help right away because I was scared that it wouldn't work, you know, and people don't understand that piece, the piece of desperation and fear, and you know, it's on multiple levels.
Well, tell us a little bit about, you have various recovery programs. Could you tell us what you offer?
Yes, so we have a certified recovery peer advocate program that works with individuals to, like you said, help with lived experience, help them understand that we understand, and seek out treatment, or just working with a peer themselves. We also have family support navigation, because families suffer too, right? Like, that's where a lot of stigma starts, is families being hurt by their loved ones, as well as not knowing how to communicate to their loved ones, or not knowing how to be receptive when somebody returns back from treatment. But we also have the CHAMP helpline, which is through New York State of Health. It's Community Health Access, the mental health programming, or mental health care project, that we help individuals that have had any sort of parodies through insurance, had any insurance kickbacks that they needed to be advocated for or fought for on the legal level. We can even go as far as bringing it to the legal level at the state level, and having them advocated for by actual lawyers and teams of lawyers. And we can also help people get into treatment that need help.
How successful are these programs? Do they have a good success rate?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a hard question to be asked, because how do you equate success, right? Like, do you go off 6 months? Do you go off a year? What is success, right? I feel we have a fairly high rate of people continuing to be in a program of recovery, trying to get well. It's more complex than being how successful, right? Like, there's no way to quantify it in a sense of like 20%. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that makes sense. And I know I found it kind of interesting, and it's something you don't even think about. We talk so often about crime in New York State. There's so much crime that comes from this addiction. I know Sheriff Allard brought it up in the press release about drug prescription take-back, which we'll talk about in a moment. But it's not just the addiction itself. It's feeding that addiction, right? So, I mean, it obviously leads to higher crime rates.
Yeah.
So across the board, it's bad for everyone.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's where it gets kind of the waters get kind of muddy, because like, for the better part of the last what, 60 years, we haven't been able to arrest our way out of the problem.
Sure.
Right? Like needs to be hand in hand with law enforcement and, recovery services. And I will applaud Steuben County. We've done, great things within the county, working with different municipalities, being able to get people treatment that need treatment so desperately, and not just throwing people in a cage per se.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But it's bigger than that, right? Like, people are feeding their addiction, and it's a level of desperation that most people will never feel. And it's, call it what you want, right? I'm not here to argue or debate that. I'm here to just bring awareness and talk to people and let people know that there's access to treatment, that there's help available.
Yeah. Brandon, can you stay with us through the break?
Yep.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview section of our program. Thanks again for being on the show, Brandon.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Let's talk. We're going to talk about drug prescription take back. But before that, you had mentioned the various programs you offered. Could you reiterate what those programs do for people that are watching?
Yeah, we have a recovery advocate program where that is that lived experience that you talked about, really connecting with people on that level, letting them understand and help guide them through the process of finding recovery and maintaining recovery. We also have a family support navigation program, which helps the families understand and navigate the systems of care, as well as helping them really understand what it's like to be in active addiction and reasons why people do it sometimes, so that they don't believe some of the stigmatizing things, such as, like, they're being selfish or things of that nature. It's, a lot of people tried and experimented with things, and it got out of control for some, right? We also have the Ombudsman program through CHAMP, which that really helps individuals access treatment, get free health care with their insurance companies, help them navigate their insurance, pull the best benefits for what they need, and be able to investigate and solve any sort of disparities or conflicts they may have had with insurance companies.
I would say, as a community, we can't just ignore this problem. I think a lot of people want to kind of put their heads in the sand. Politicians, not in Steuben. Steuben's been great, but I think a lot of people want to ignore it. But it's not going away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the stigma has really brought it on. How people look down on people that are suffering, right? And it's a different level of suffering that some may not understand, but it is very much associated with mental health. It is very much associated with hopelessness.
Sure.
Like, we've all been there. We've all felt that. And I think COVID just brought that on harder for a lot of people, to help people understand that it is a problem and it's touching all areas, not just certain counties or demographics. It's affecting all. And I just hope that people start to accept that it is a problem and that help needs to be found before it touches their families.
Well, and that's a great point. It's really all social. There's no certain person that you can pigeonhole and say that's going to be an addict. I mean,
Exactly.
it's the rich guy, it's the poor guy. It's affecting. And I think, to your point, almost everybody has someone in their life that's been affected by this. Whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or whatever. And that's what makes it so terrifying. And that's why we talk about it with so many politicians, but how important Narcan has been. Or am I saying that right? Narcan?
Yeah, Narcan.
Yeah, Narcan. Because it's really prevalent in our society, but it has to be.
Yeah. And people don't understand that. It's kind of stigmatized. They think if people have Narcan, they're going to use more. Right? One, people can't Narcan themselves, right?
Okay.
And it's a life-saving measure. And it's not only a life-saving measure for people that are in active addiction, right? Like, there's been police that have been exposed and have had Narcan save their lives. Like, if you talk to somebody that's saved their life, Narcan saved my life, right?
Yeah.
And I'm now a productive member of society, doing everything I can to do everything the right way. So it is possible, but people need to be breathing to find recovery.
Right.
And all Narcan is meant to do is restart breathing within somebody's body.
Okay.
Right? And it can be somebody that has just an everyday prescription that may have, maybe took too many, forgot they took one, or it can be somebody that had an accidental exposure,
Sure.
as well as an active addiction. You know, it's just about saving a life.
What does it take to learn how to administer Narcan?
15, 20-minute training.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How can someone do that? Do they sign up with you, or is there online?
They can reach out to me directly at AIM Independent Living Center. Okay. They can reach out to the opioid committee, to Connie Terry. We set up trainings all the time. I just did a training at the college. We're always doing trainings, and the great thing is we provide Narcan. So we give you a kit before you leave. Some places don't do that. But we really want to get it in the hands of as many people that need it as possible. And I can tell you, I've Narcan 30 plus people in Erie County, and that was all from just pulling in parking lots.
Wow.
Not even personal, knowing someone. So it's out there, and it's touching all areas, and it's affecting all people, and it's really just about saving a life.
Brandon, tell us about the importance of drug prescription take back, which is coming up this Saturday.
Yep. So this Saturday at the Sheriff's Department out in Bath, we do a drug take-back day. We do it twice a year. I believe there's one at Corning Police as well. And it's about just cleaning out those medicine cabinets, a little spring cleaning, getting some things out of there that you may have had for a longer time than you needed. And, it's vital in the sense that 70% of adolescents that get exposed to drugs or active addiction is through their own medicine cabinet.
Okay.
So it's really about getting those harmful substances out of there, just cleaning up, getting the stuff off the streets. We don't want people using, we don't want people stealing medications from people's houses. Let's get them out of there.
And that's a big issue, right? Theft of people breaking in and trying to steal your pills, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, let's not make it sound like the big bad wolf, right? Like people are going to be climbing through windows for your pills. But I mean, it does happen. Like family members see them or whatever, whatever it may be. And we really just want to be a preventive action to get medications out. And it's not safe the way that people dispose of medications either.
Sure.
Right? So we don't only do these take-back days. We also have we have Dispose RX, which is a great product that you just add right into the medicine bottle and, shake up with a little water and you can throw it right away.
No kidding.
Right? And there's these different things that we can have access to. There's many, many drop boxes throughout the county. That the access to drop-offs are there, but we do twice a year a very big one where a lot of people come, and unfortunately, we see a lot of people coming with large bags full of medications because, a lot of us can relate to being told, like, oh, we're going to save that. You never know when you might need it.
Right.
So we're just trying to alleviate that and get some of those things out of there.
And this is open to anybody?
Yeah.
So it's 10 to 2 at the Public Safety Building, 7007 Rumsey Street Extension. I said that weird. But that's this Saturday. They get pretty good crowds for this, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, we've taken hundreds of pounds of medications off the street, and it goes directly from the Sheriff's Department, gets loaded into a truck, taken up to Rochester, the DEA, and just incinerated. So it gets it out of here as fast as possible.
Well, and that's important because I think when we just throw it out, that's not the right way to do it. Or flush it down the toilet or something. That's not healthy for anyone.
No.
Right? So that's coming up. Actually, I have a graphic to put on. It's right there. Drug prescription take back, April 22nd, 10 a.m. till 2. So make sure that you get all of it. Like you said, perfect. Spring cleaning, right?
Yeah.
Get that all and dump it there at the drug prescription take back. Just before we go, Brandon, you offer the great programs. You've mentioned all that you do in the community. How can people that need help or a family member of someone that needs help reach out to you and contact you?
They can find the Opioid Committee Facebook page. They can reach out to Connie Terry with the Opioid Committee, or they can reach out directly to me at AIM Independent Living Center. They can reach me at 607-962-8225, extension 233. They can also call my work cell, which is 607-415-2473, or just email me, and I'll pass that information along to be passed out and
start the process.
Yeah, it's really just a phone call.
I know it probably sounds cliche, but today's the right day to start, right?
Yeah.
Today's the most important day. So, Brandon, thank you so much for being on the program this morning. I hope that we can talk again soon.
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you again to Brandon for being on the program. We actually received during break, and I didn't have a chance to catch Brandon. I saw it right after he left, but we received a nice message in regards to our interview. Let's go to that from Doug. Thanks for writing in, Doug. Frank, thanks for having Brandon Buter on the show today. Huge topic. It is a huge topic, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because it's not just about Drug Take Back Day. It's about what this is doing to our community in general, and that's why I'm so glad that he could be on the program to show how he can help and how they can help. Continuing here, mental health, the source for so many addictions, drugs, alcohol. Thanks, Brandon, for the work he does. Or thank him, and that's what I mean. I missed him. To help people manage through life. Yes, it's such an important topic, and it's one that we can't take lightly, folks. I keep mentioning this, and by the way, you can contact me at any time. See, we're going live on the air with that. That just came in mere minutes ago. But when we talk about this program being about community, it's not just complaining about the New York State budget, though we do that a lot. It's about programs like that and services like that. We're going to have a few guests like that on this week. So again, I want to thank Brandon, and again, the Take Back Day is this Saturday, April 22nd, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., Public Safety Building, 7007 Rumsey Street Extension. So thank you again. Okay. Well, we have a couple other things we have to get to this morning when it comes to the news, so thanks again for joining us. Let's go right back to it. We were talking about the New York State budget. We have been. Obviously, the extensions keep coming. I guess you've had long enough with my contact information. The extensions keep coming. Well, they claim that their lawmakers are closer to the budget and that the vote could actually come this week. Now, obviously, if you're just tuning in for the first time, the budget was due April 1st, and now there has been, I think, at least 2 extensions. The biggest issue has been the bail laws and housing. And we're going to talk about housing in just a moment. But according to Assemblyman John McDonald, he said, we got a Friday night memo of what to prepare for the week ahead. It was very clear that we see a large amount of activity Monday and Tuesday. Interesting. And bring enough clothes for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I think it appears we will be here the full week. So we'll keep you updated. We'll try to have Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on, or Chris Friend, or State Senator Tom O'Mara once this passes, to get some more information, because again, there is no transparency in this process. We don't know what's actually being said behind closed doors. Now, I know not behind closed doors, Governor Hochul is, let's just say, getting criticized for her position on housing. Let's go to our news here. Housing activists privately rage that Governor Hochul is a racist who does not like immigrants. That's an exact quote. During a mass virtual call to discuss the deadlocked state budget negotiations. The April 11th strategy session was sponsored by Housing Justice for All, which is pushing for, quote, good cause legislation to limit rent hikes in apartments across the state and back a new housing access voucher program to aid the homeless and tenants facing eviction. Quote, Governor Hochul doesn't like Housing Justice for All because she doesn't want everyone who's included in this program to be included. That includes people who are undocumented, people with felony convictions. This coming from organization staffer Reedy Singh. We know Governor Hochul is like really conservative. That's an exact quote. I think many of us would disagree. We know Governor Hochul is like really conservative, and that she really, she's racist. She does not like immigrants. She does not like people who've been, in jail. So she's like really, really been fighting against it. That again from a spokesperson, an organization staffer, Reedy Singh, from the housing activist group, Housing Justice for All. So you can't really win for losing sometimes. So she's being called out because of this housing debate, and a lot of people have had the suggestions of the same when it comes to bail. Let's look at bail. More criminal justice changes are considered in the New York budget talks. Again, this is all coming from basically anonymous sources or tips that people receive, because we do not know what's actually being said behind closed doors. But changes to New York's controversial bail law have dominated the budget talks. But behind the scenes, Further changes to the state's criminal justice system could be made as part of a final spending plan that is now more than 2 weeks past its due date. And you'll recall, I said on the program, if you've been watching, I'm concerned about what Governor Hochul concedes on in these negotiations. Will it be an area where the law has no teeth, or will it be a scenario where she gave up so much for what is really a minor change? Lawmakers are weighing with Governor Hochul whether to make further changes to the state's discovery law, first approved 4 years ago, as a way of accelerating access to evidence for criminal defendants. At the same time, advocates are making a final push this month to include a law that would replace a police response with crisis teams when a person is in a mental health crisis. Both measures are part of the ongoing and broader debate surrounding criminal justice in New York State. Now, if you've lived in New York State for any period of time, you understand how bad the bail reform law was. As a matter of fact, I remember at the time thinking there's no possible way this is going to go through. Of course, I was wrong. And it's went through, and it's been nothing but a disaster. And Governor Hochul sees that. She's not an idiot. I mean, she sees that the New York State residents want safer streets. They want to feel that they or their family can walk the streets safely. And Governor Hochul sees that as a political advantage to her if she can do something. But there's so many in Albany fighting against it. Again, essentially saying to the residents of New York, we don't care about your safety. We care about some type of virtue signaling or some type of press release statement about how much we care about those affected. But if you look, I saw this morning. This is out of New York City, but nearly a third of all shoplifting arrests in the city last year involved just 327 people. This is coming from the New York Times. So you're seeing this repeat offense after repeat offense. And then you have, and I've said this numerous times, it's so tragic with the bail reform that there's so many people that are victims that did not have to be victims because these criminals were on the street sometimes before the ink dried on their arrest papers. And it's obviously hurt the morale in the police departments here locally, but throughout the state. It's causing people not to sign up to become police or to retire or to leave. We know that both Sheriff Allard and both Sheriff Schramm, when we had them on the program separately, but they were talking about how tough it is to find people, corrections officers, police officers. But why would you, when you see, let's say for this instance, you arrest one of these people for shoplifting, and you know they're going to do it all over again because a third of all shoplifting arrests in the city involve just 327 people. Oh, we got our first wave, folks. Did it add? Yep, there we go. So that's a little bit about bail reform. We've got a couple other quick things about New York if we have a chance, but I realize I already have to take a break. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Make sure to bring your umbrella to work today. It's going to be a rainy one. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street. We've had a lot of conversations about these sticker stores or these marijuana stores, and both criticism and both people, both sides of the issue. There's an interesting piece that's starting to make its rounds. I saw an Empire report. It's actually based out of the New York Post. It's an article with the New York Post, but it's by Steve Kuzo. And he's specifically talking about New York City, but I think it's an interesting point, something we have to keep in mind. He said legal weed is turning New York workers into zombies. And he gives a lot of anecdotal scenarios where he has had trouble, and various people have had trouble with someone who's on the job who's obviously high. He says after seeing all this, it's time to lower the minimum wage. Now, we've talked extensively about the push to make minimum wage in New York $21.25. Can you imagine what that would do to small businesses? But he said, why not? When many workers in stores, restaurants, dry cleaners, you name it, are stoned when they're waiting on you or working with you. He uses a lot of ridiculous language in this, but not bad. But he said, I haven't seen so much pot-induced lethargy since my Vietnam-era college days when so many fellow students were high that their panicked weed flushing during a rumored police raid overwhelmed the campus pipes. Now our whole pot-pickled city is that campus, he says. But it boils down to this. Our progressive polls, according to Steve, meaning politicians, are throwing our city into the trash, and it is no accident. Interesting. That's his thoughts, making its rounds online. Oh, my goodness. Do we have to take a break already? I wanted to just highlight one thing. If you missed on Friday, we had a great show on Friday. We have a great show every day. It goes so fast, like today's edition. But we had Eileen Collins on talking about the new NASA mission to the moon, but also about her amazing career, her amazing book. If you missed that, it is posted to our Facebook page, WYDC TV Big Fox Facebook page. Also, the full episode is up on YouTube, and you can find old episodes if you want to catch up, or if there's an interview you want to hear again, or maybe you missed some of it because you were on your way to work or school. You can find them there. And since I'm going through the housekeeping, don't forget, you can always contact me if you have any questions. If you want more information about Brandon, who was on the program earlier, and about the peer recovery and all that he does, the amazing work that he does in the community, and so many on that opioid committee do in our community. If you want to find out more, you can contact me there, and I can get you in touch, because I know he read his phone number, but it's sometimes tough if you didn't have a pen. So please reach out if you or someone you know needs help. Do not hesitate. I'd be more than happy to pass along your information to Brandon. Okay, let's take another short break. We're going to take that down. We'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're covering a lot this morning. I want to go back to another New York State issue. I think it was last week when we were talking to Joe Sempolinski, former congressman. Now he has been the whole time, Steuben County Republican chairman. We were talking about the idea that there could be congressional redistricting. That's not the right word, but redrawing the congressional maps. Because there was, you remember, the back and forth with the court on that. Well, according to NewYorkStateOfPolitics.com, Common Cause New York, that group, it said it would be politically inappropriate to redraw the congressional maps before 2024. Many people believe the ruling led to Republicans in New York State flipping 3 Democrat seats, the original ruling. I don't know if that's the case. I think a lot of that had to do with how good of a campaigner Lee Zeldin was, and it ended up switching quite a few of those seats. That's really going to be his legacy in his gubernatorial race. He did great in that race, don't get me wrong, but the fact that he secured the Republican Party the majority, while redistricting is only supposed to happen once every 10 years, as you are aware, this story is nowhere near over, with Governor Hochul and State Attorney General Tish James submitting a brief to the court in support of redrawing all 26 of New York State's congressional district seats before the 2024 election. Susan Lerner, executive director of New York Common Cause. How am I doing on that time? Good. There's absolutely no justification for reopening the congressional maps other than to try and give the legislature more influence over the maps. It smacks of the sort of self-serving gerrymandering that we see in states like Ohio and North Carolina, where the legislatures ignore court rulings to perpetrate a gerrymandered majority, drawing rigged map after rigged map. We definitely do not want New York to go down that same politically inappropriate, legally inappropriate rabbit hole. In a joint statement, Hochul with the Attorney General said, "We are urging the court to support the constitutionally protected process in order to ensure accountability and fairness for New York voters." It's still going to be an issue, folks. Just when you thought that mess was over, it was cleaned up and it was done, we could be getting all back into it right from the jump, right from the beginning. Start the process all again. We've got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Thank you again for joining us. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Let's get it on the normal camera there for a moment. One last thing, because we are out of time, I wanted to mention we've talked extensively about former President Trump and what's going on there with the legal cases and what we can expect with the primary right around the corner. This was interesting. You may have heard this breaking over the weekend. Trump hit $34 million after an indictment, money pouring in. Trump raised over $18 million over the first 3 months of the year, according to campaign finance reports. The Associated Press noted that the Trump campaign said $4 million of that total was raised in the 24 hours after Trump was indicted by the New York grand jury. In total, the former president has raised over $34 million this year. It's going to be an interesting race, isn't it? Still speculation. Again, President Biden has not officially declared. He told Al Roker kind of off the cuff that he wants to run for re-election, but they're not ready to announce it yet. Well, if you recall, they were talking about all the way back in January at the State of the Union was going to be the kickoff to his announcement, and we still have seen nothing yet. So I don't know if there's some things happening behind the scenes. Also behind the scenes, just to segue, one last quick story before we go. Gillibrand is defending Feinstein. I don't know if you've seen the reports. A lot of those on the left are calling for Feinstein to resign because she is in kind of poor health and she hasn't been able to show up to votes, and there's some important things that she has not been able to do in her job as a senator. So you saw the long knives come out by some of those on the far left. But Gillibrand has defended her. We have had so many senators who have had illness, whether it's Mitch McConnell's illness or senators who have had strokes, Gillibrand said. These are issues that we're human, and we believe that a senator should be able to make their own judgments about when they're retiring and when they're not. And they all deserve a chance to get better and come back to work. Diane will get better. She will come back to work. It was interesting, some of the people that you saw calling for her to resign, too. There's some, well, remember, a lot of those on the left turned on her because she worked with Mitch McConnell or said nice things about. It was something very small, minute, but that's not really where politics is today. You can't be friendly to the other side at all. So they turned on her quickly. For a lady that's been very liberal her whole career, they turned on her over a few slights in their mind. Well, that is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. My goodness, that went quick. I want to thank Brandon again for being on the program. Really appreciate that. Let's put that information back up. Drug prescription take back is this Saturday, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Public Safety Building, 7007 Rumsey Street Extension. And if you want to reach out and contact me so that I can get you in touch with Brandon, if that's something that you would like to do, please get a hold of me. Have a great day, everyone. This has been Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Please join us tomorrow, starting at 7 a.m. right here. I look forward to it.